All right, let's get right into it. There is a firestorm brewing in Iran. We're talking about a revolution on the brink, and the stakes, well, they couldn't be higher. Not just for the Middle East, but really for the whole world. What we are witnessing is a nation being pushed to its absolute limit, and it is unraveling right in front of our eyes.
You know, this chant, which you can hear on the streets in this near-future scenario, it really gets to the very heart of this crisis. For decades, the regime has pointed the finger outward, blaming enemies like the United States for everything. But now, the people are turning around and pointing that finger right back at their own leaders. And understanding that shift, well, that's the big puzzle we're going to unpack together.
So, first things first, let's just take a look at the sheer chaos on the ground. This isn't just another protest. No, this is a full-blown, nationwide uprising.
What you've really got to understand is where this whole thing kicked off. It wasn't at a university, not this time. It started in Tehran's Grand Bazaar, the economic engine of the entire country. When the merchants, who have historically been a pillar of the establishment, when they shut their shops and hit the streets, that fire spread like wildfire to all 31 provinces. And the regime's response? Well, it's been pretty predictable. Call them foreign agents and then hit the kill switch on the internet to try and hide the truth.
And that truth? It's brutal. Human rights groups are reporting that in the government's crackdown, over 500 protesters have been killed. Let's be clear. This isn't just police action. This is a lethal, calculated suppression of dissent.
So you have to ask yourself, what on earth drives people to face that kind of danger? What pushes a person past the point of fear? It's not about ideology anymore. It's about pure survival. So let's look at the numbers behind all this rage.
Food price inflation has just exploded, skyrocketing past 70%. And overall inflation? That's heading towards 60%. Now, this isn't some minor inconvenience. This means meat is now a total luxury item. It means millions of families are literally struggling just to put food on the table each night.
And at the exact same time, the country's currency, the rial, has gone into a complete freefall, and now takes a mind-boggling 1.4 million rials just to equal one single US dollar. Any savings that people managed to scrape together? Poof, wiped out. The economy is in a state of total collapse.
And for an entire generation of young people, there's just no hope. Youth unemployment is at a shocking 50% for men between 25 and 40. A generation with no jobs, no savings, and absolutely no future, well, that's a generation with nothing left to lose.
And this slide, wow, it just lays out the disconnect perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the regime's priorities, spending over $1 billion to fund foreign groups like Hezbollah, pushing ahead with its nuclear program, and just massive military spending. And on the other side, the reality for its own citizens, more than half the country is facing malnourishment and millions have gone hungry. It's a deliberate choice to fund foreign wars instead of feeding their own people.
Now, look, protests are nothing new in Iran. The regime has been brutally crushing dissent for decades. But this time is dangerously different.
This isn't the first time Iranians have risen up. We saw the political green movement back in 2009, then the economic fuel protests in 2019, and of course the massive social uprising after the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022. Each one was a big deal, but each time, the regime managed to hang on. The uprising happening now, though, it feels like it combines all of those frustrations into one.
And here is the absolute key difference. Those previous protests were often led by specific groups, students, the urban middle class, fighting for political or social rights. But this uprising is different. The trigger is pure economic survival, and its base is, well, it's everyone. The bazaar merchants, the working class, all sectors of society. And that right there is why for the regime, the fear level has gone from high to existential.
You know, this internal crisis isn't happening in a vacuum. While the regime is getting weaker at home, its power is also crumbling on the world stage. And that is creating a perfect storm that's making protesters bolder and tempting foreign powers.
So for years, Iran's main tool for projecting power has been this thing called the axis of resistance. It's basically a network of proxy groups like Hezbollah and Hamas that they use to destabilize their rivals, especially Israel and the United States.
But that axis is now falling apart. The fall of their key ally, Assad in Syria, that was a huge blow. Their proxies like Hezbollah are under incredible pressure. And crucially, recent military strikes by the US and Israel have not only damaged key facilities, but they've also taken out top security officials. The regime is starting to look weak, and weakness always invites a challenge.
And that challenge is coming. As the chaos grows inside Iran, outside players are seeing an opportunity. The U.S. President Donald Trump has openly threatened to, quote, knock down Iran's nuclear program. He's also signaled that he's ready to intervene to protect the protesters.
So when you put all of these pieces together, a desperate population, a brutal regime, and opportunistic foreign powers, you end up at the tragic heart of the matter for the Iranian people, a geopolitical trap with no easy way out.
We're calling this the Iranian double bind. It's this impossible choice that the people of Iran are facing. It's a trap where pretty much any path they take could lead to a catastrophic future.
Just look at this breakdown. On one hand, they can just endure the regime. Okay, that means more violence, deepening poverty, and a life with no basic rights. But the alternative, embracing foreign help, is just as terrifying. You risk a Libyan-style civil war, an Iraqi-style foreign occupation of your country's resources, and just becoming a pawn in someone else's great game. Neither of those paths leads to a free and sovereign Iran.
So, where's all this leave us? Well, there are no simple answers here, no easy predictions. There's only a series of profound, incredibly difficult questions that are going to define the future of an entire nation.
First, there's the internal struggle. You've got an immovable object, a regime that'll kill its own people to survive, and it's meeting an unstoppable force, a population so desperate that death just isn't a deterrent anymore. What happens when those two finally collide?
And then you've got the external question. Is all this talk from the U.S. about intervention really about saving the Iranian people and promoting democracy? Or is it, as we've seen so many times before in the region, about controlling oil and redrawing the geopolitical map for their own benefit?
And all of this brings us to the final, haunting question for the people of Iran, who are trapped in this impossible double bind. How do you overthrow a tyrant at home without inviting a new one from abroad? How do you win your freedom without losing your country in the process?